So if you will join us, please. Colonel, would you care to lead us?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, up first is our agenda approval. And I believe we do have a couple of modifications to the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chairman Wayne.
First thing is to remove the county alcohol and drug-free workplace policy from the consent agenda, and we will table this for a future discussion. Are there any other changes to the consent agenda?
Chairman Wechtel, under letter D, 2D, the Marsville VFW Memorial Post lease and resolution, if we could move that down to, I'm not sure, do we want to put that in the manager?
Let's put it under county manager's report. Make it
That's
7C.
There's additional information we need to consider with that.
Okay. So that's being removed from the consent agenda, put into open. All right.
I have
And
nothing further.
Carrie, the item you needed to talk about, will that fall into the finance officer's portion?
Can.
Okay. So that doesn't need to be moved anywhere then?
I can, no.
You can present that, correct?
I can present that, yes.
Thank you.
Right.
Sorry.
But that's not currently on the agenda. We would need to include it in the agenda.
I'm sorry. Okay, so we need to add that to the agenda then. All right, so let's get that fixed up here.
Did you provide?
That is that. So ultimately, what we have is a presentation of or a discussion on a grant application for the school system for the needs-based grant process, which is more or less just a quick discussion and paperwork situation more than anything. So we will add that to the agenda under 6D. Any other changes or alterations to the agenda for tonight? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chairman Garrison, second by Commissioner Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? Agenda is approved as modified. All right.
Substitute block grant contract, that's have to be voted on. Speak consent agenda.
Late noon. All right. So now up next is our consent agenda, which you guys have all had the opportunity to inspect in your packet. The remaining items, which include tax refunds and releases, tax foreclosure update, which there were none, transportation contract for Madison Health and Rehab, substance abuse block grant contract, let's see, audit engagement letter and contract. That's for a future audit for the annual audit that's required by the state of the county business, and let's see, child welfare adjudication support grant contract. I was so focused on saying adjudication, I couldn't pronounce welfare. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council funding plan, and approval of our minutes, which everyone has had the opportunity to review. So, this time I'll entertain a motion that the consent agenda be approved as previously amended.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner White. Is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
I do have one legal question for Attorney Laws concerning the VIA contract. Is that something we can approve through the consent agenda?
It is.
Excellent. No further questions.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? Consent agenda is approved. Up next on the agenda tonight is public comment. And that would be, let's see, we've got one individual signed up for the general public comment session, and that would be Mr. Tony Ponder. Floor is yours, Mr. Ponder.
Chairman Wechtel, Commissioners, I want to address the water and sewer line between Mars Hill and Marshall. First, a compliment. This board did an audit that Robin Niles suggested that this commission do, and you did it. It's commendable. I believe the Sheriff's Department could use an audit also. You commissioners attended the French Broad EMC meeting, and Mr. Garrison, I believe you won $50, but you weren't there to collect.
Had to leave to work.
All right. And there was some meeting, and the voting machines from Michigan, nobody can count to 3,000. If you lose your marbles, you can have a guardian appointed and still be a member of the board of the French Broad EMC. Looks like you'll get your water and sewer line. I'm sure that land speculators, economic developers are jumping with joy. Oh, and the nonprofits, they'll have a field day, building low-income housing for all those illegal aliens flooding into the country. And look at the grant money that will be coming to the county. Amazing what you can do with water and sewer, hotels, high-rises, and we can have 3 or 4 strip malls between Mars Hill and Marshall. And drug clinics, watch your needles. And the traffic on 213, I can hardly get out into the highway now. And when you 4-lane 213, you'll have to dig up and relocate all those water and sewer lines. Talk about a ravaging the hillside with bulldozing. All this legislative gift money has the earmarks of a boondoggle from hell. Talk about bickering between the towns of Mars Hill and Marshall. Of course, to maintain this ill-thought-out monstrosity, we county taxpayers will be on the hook. We'll have to pony up tax money to maintain it.
Thank you, Mr. Ponder. Mr. Ponder was the only person signed up for general public comment. So at this point, we will now move on to agenda item number 4. And County Manager Honeycutt, will you? Okay, there you go. We got Ellen Pitt from the Western North Carolina DWI Task Force is coming to speak with us here in regards to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Ellen.
you for having me. For those of you who might not know who I am, my name's Ellen Pitt. I represent Mothers Against Drunk Driving for the past 20 years in Western North Carolina, and also have co-led the Western North Carolina Regional DWI Task Force for 18 years. I'm not paid, hired, or elected. So we are in the middle of a process in the 7 most western counties, that prosecutorial district. We made a request to the North Carolina Governor's Highway Safety Program for a little bit of funding because we were seeing more and more youthful DWI offenders who would get arrested and then get another charge for driving while impaired while that first one was pending. Some of them have gotten even two. It will wreck their lives. They're either going to prison or, and that's if they don't kill somebody or hurt somebody. So we're trying to find a way to address that. And one of the most successful ways is, and this is what our task force does, we do all kinds of things, but one of the most successful ways to address that is with an inexpensive piece of technology. The law provided for that technology in 2012, but somehow it didn't get disseminated to everybody that needed to know about the law. So we have in Western North Carolina, all knowledge does not come out of Wake County or somewhere else in New York City. We have a lot of knowledge and expertise and smart people out here in Western North Carolina that get the job done. So we're going to give you a little bit of a timeline. And actually, when the law passed, Ray Rapp, who some of you may have known from over here, we always have legislators on our task force, and he was on our task force back in the very early days. We started in 2005, and he was one of the sponsors of the bill that allows for this technology. So the bill was passed, and then the first cam bracelet order ever done in North Carolina for a pre-trial cam bracelet was done in Western North Carolina by a Western North Carolina judge. So we requested them pre-trial on many occasions, but the stumbling block was always the cost. The people who need them the worst can afford them the least. And so, and sometimes they're the most dangerous people, or they're the people whose life is going to be so permanently altered if they get several DWIs. So that's just a document copy. Indigence was always the reason why we couldn't get them put on. So during the Christmas holidays especially, we started seeing these really high blood alcohols, youthful offenders getting more than one charge. And so you'll be curious to know that in the past 6 months in your county, Madison County, 50% of the drivers that were arrested for driving while impaired had blood alcohols 0.15 or greater. So everybody knows the legal limit's 0.08, right? So that was a trend as our communities become more and more saturated with alcohol. I looked at the alcohol density for your county, and you're not in my red zone yet, but Asheville and Buncombe County, all of their issues are bleeding over into the other counties. And so the red county is the reddest county is Buncombe, because they have 975 alcohol vendors in Buncombe County. You have 29 permitted vendors. And so what I do is look at the population and how many alcohol vendors do you have per person in your county, and then I come out with this 3-digit percentage point. And you're not in that danger zone yet. But then in Wikipedia, if you look up Madison County, do you know what it says about your county? It says part of the Asheville, North Carolina Metropolitan Statistical Area. So you're in there with Buncombe County and Asheville, and you have all the issues that they are facing coming your way. So when people wear a pre-trial cam bracelet, it's a bracelet that goes on their leg. It senses alcohol. It's pretty foolproof, because if you pour alcohol on that person, the thing reads out like an EKG strip and it'll spike straight up. If somebody's drinking, it looks more like a little mountain. The blood alcohol that's actually in their blood will like climb up, and then it'll go back down when they stop drinking. So if there's a drinking event, when they go on, it's a court order, has to be done by a magistrate or a judge. And when they go on, and we're in the process of, our magistrates are trained in our district pretty much. It took some doing and still isn't completed. But So they're getting trained to it where if somebody comes in their office, they have a specific criteria. If they get a DWI while they already have one pending, the magistrate can put a pretrial cam bracelet on them until their cases, because sometimes their case don't go to court for a year, 2 years. So this is a temporary 90-day fix to stop them from drinking so they can get their life straightened out. The sobriety courts in Montgomery County, which have been very successful and have now become academy courts for the whole nation, this is their standard operating procedure. They wear a cam bracelet 120 days. And you do see that life-changing sobriety start to take place. For most of them, it's the first big step they take towards sobriety. So we asked for 2 years of funding and about 200 and something $1,000 from the Governor's Highway Safety Program. So they gave us 1 year of funding, and they gave us $60,000 for all 7 western counties. It's about $8,500 per county. So it really wasn't worth our effort. And as everything else that goes through the high government levels, there's a lot of bureaucracy and paperwork and creating a job for somebody else or whatever. And so we decided we don't know. The funding ends September 30th for us, for this project. We don't know if they'll say, yay, it's successful. Right now, we are 100% successful. Of all the people that, we have 29 people on cam bracelets, and nobody has violated it. Not a single person. We can pay for them for 90 days out of this grant that we got. And that gives them an opportunity to get their life sort of straightened out, and it stops them from getting that second or third one before they go to trial, which is what we want to do. To say nothing for it stops them from going out and drinking again and maybe killing somebody or hurting somebody. So if they don't continue to fund this incredibly successful project, we would come back to you people and ask you for a very small amount of money for a life-saving, life-changing piece of technology. And that amount of money is, if you look at keeping somebody in jail pre-trial, I'm not sure what the cost of staying in your jail is for 1 day, but the general consensus in counties that I go to is about $90 a day, not including medical expenses and all that. So a cam bracelet's $12 a day. So there's a big difference in paying $360 a month for a cam bracelet for 3 months while they wait for trial than there is in keeping a person in jail for 3 months while they wait on a trial. And what's happened is they've been so successful that defense attorneys say, well, you know, they've got this bracelet on, so I want to plead them before their 90 days are up, so because they're doing great, there's nothing going wrong. It also mitigates their jail sentence. If they do 60 days on a cam bracelet, in some circumstances, their jail time's cut down. If they have a child passenger in the vehicle, which is a very, very dangerous situation, and what actually brought me to MAD, if they have a child in the car, they've got an automatic 30-day jail sentence. If they wear these cam bracelets for 120 days, they only have to do 10 days in jail. So it changes things, and you have to stop and think, would you rather somebody be in jail, or would you rather them be out working, taking care of their family, conducting their business as usual with a cam bracelet on their leg? It's guaranteed sobriety. So we had some meetings, and we had to work all this out because we have 7 counties in our district. You have 5. So the Governor's Highway Safety Program wanted to argue and say, well, we'll only do Haywood and Jackson. And then they said, potentially we might do Swain or we might do Graham. And we had to really stand firm and say, we are a 7-county district. We don't piecemeal things out. And it would be the same thing for you all. You're a 5-county district. So we sent a letter in. We begged for the money. We got a little bit of money and a very much shortened project. That's some of the original documents from when we were getting the money. So before they gave us the money, they kept saying, if you can find a fiduciary agent who will who will act as the agent for all 7 counties, we can give you the money. So we went to the Swain County Commissioners, because that's what's in our district, and they all voted 4-1 that they wanted to be the fiduciary agent for all 7 counties. It's like there's a court order, person gets the bracelet on, the bill goes to the county manager, he pays it just like the water bill. So, and it's $360 a month for the cam bracelet. So that's the amount of money we got. That's who all begged for it. We did the training December 6th in Swain County. They incorporated this into one of their other projects. And so December 15th, 2022, the contract was finally signed. We got the money October 1st, and it took until December 15th to sign the contract, which I have no explanation for. And then from December 15th to December 30th, we saw the highest blood alcohols that we've seen in years. And you have, I'll give Colonel Honeycutt a printout. You have people driving around at 0.34. And like I told you, some of them, they're all up in the 20s. It's very, very, very dangerous business to be in. So those are people for the high blood alcohols. The fleeing to elude is another condition where they can put one of these on them. So the first pretrial grant-funded cam bracelet went on January 11th. We wanted to start it in December before the holidays, but with the government stuff, it just... So they had a media event and told everybody about it. We kept track. March 23rd, we had 20 defendants in all 7 counties on a cam bracelet pre-trial, and the success rate was 100%. So April 11th, 24 people had cam bracelets on with no violations. All of those 24 people, and now there's 29 because it's changed since this, they're all sober, they're all working, they're all taking care of their families, and they're not in jail costing you money. Their sentences are mitigated when they go to court. They are rewarded for this good behavior. So in our county, 1 day in the jail is $90 a day. So if they stay a month, it's $2,700. 1 day wearing the cam bracelet's $12 a day, $360 a month. So the savings to the taxpayer is $2,340 a month. So as of April 19th, that's our 7 counties, and that's about, this one has the most, and that may be because I'm in that county screaming and yelling all the time. But the other counties have started putting them on, and it's not a lot of money for a life-saving endeavor that saves you tax dollars. So our task force has been working on this since 2012. That's how long we have to persevere sometimes. And so this lady right here, one of the reasons this was so important is this lady right here, it took her 10 months to die. She was hit by a repeat offender drunk driver who should have had a cam bracelet on. I was her nurse. I dressed her wounds, and I was also her crime victim advocate in the courts. And so had that driver had pretrial conditions of release, like a cam bracelet, that wreck would have probably never happened. And so what we're telling you today is that the government is probably, we don't know until probably August. They'll tell us they're either going to continue to fund cam bracelets for all counties in the state, we would hope, at 100%, or they're not going to fund them at all, or anything in between. They usually will say, we'll fund something for 100% for the first year, then 80%, then 50%, and then you're on your own. That's what they've done with sobriety courts in Buncombe County. So at some point in time, if they are not going to fund cam bracelets at all, we might come back to you. We want you to know what this is, and I keep up with the success of it, and would advise you on that. but we want you to know about it because we might come back and say, and your county is small and your statistics are not like Mecklenburg or somewhere. We would not be saying, would you be willing to can't fund for indigent people, high risk offenders, a cam bracelet for 3 months? And so we just want you to be thinking ahead about that because we don't know until probably August what they'll do, whether they'll continue funding it or not. So we're trying to go around to all the counties, and this is something we all have to look at the alcohol density now, because where I live, there are twice as many alcohol vendors as there are churches. We have a brewery on every corner. We have alcohol just saturating the community. And so this is one way that we have to try to counteract that. So, and you're welcome anytime. Colonel Honeycutt can bring you as a guest to one of our task force meetings if you like. And you can see kind of what we do to try to prevent people from driving while impaired. So any questions that I can answer?
Thank you, Ellen. You guys have any questions?
Appreciate the work you do.
And if we come back and ask for that budget amendment, we'll give you an eligibility list because that's what they go by. And it'll have criteria for being qualified for a free cam bracelet for 90 days. And we'll give you the exact figures. We'll look at the data and see about what you'd be looking at. But I'd almost tell you it would be less than $10,000 for a whole year. So anything I can
Donnie,
answer?
can we recoup that at sentencing?
No. And the governor's highway safety program may come along and say, we're going to fund, but I don't know how many counties, if they'll do the whole state. We have one legislator that was going to ask for some kind of something to be written into the budget. But with the quagmire that they get in down there, sometimes I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah, but I also think that the individual can fund it out of their pocket too. It's an option.
Right. And some people do. We've had a lot of people over the years that have had bracelets on that could afford them. Or they had done something really heinous and the court ordered it and they found a way to pay for it. Or their defense attorney, if it's somebody that can pay for it, recommends them to put it on so that their sentence will be mitigated. And just to tell you a little story that I heard, I hear these stories in the courtroom all the time because I'm everywhere in the courtrooms. A guy came in to Haywood County Court the other day to plead guilty to his driving while impaired charges, and he was a real high-risk offender. And his attorney said, I want you to hear what I'm going to say when I plead my client guilty. So he says to the judge, Your Honor, my client, has had a cam bracelet on for 79 days, and he has not violated it. And his wife is here to testify that he has been sober for 79 days. It's the longest continuous period of sobriety they've had in their 30-year marriage. So that's the kind of things you start hearing when they wear these. And so if we have to come back and ask you for money, a little bit of money, the provider can come with us and answer any technical questions that you might have. And Colonel Honeycutt, he's listened to me yell and scream now for a long time. And so he has listened in meetings and stuff and had some of that education too, so he can help us.
Ellen, are these bracelets, ankle bracelets, consistent with the same ones we use in drug court?
I'm sure they are. There's one, they used to have two different ones, one for GPS for,
Right.
and they now have that, for domestic violence offenders. But now they can use the same one for both things. And during the virus, they had the facial recognition. It used to be, back in the old days, the officers had to go around and do the PBT the portable breath testing on some offenders, but then they got these things where it does facial recognition, and they could look into this at their home and blow into the straw, and it recorded the blood alcohol, and there was no way anybody else could blow in it for you. You had to do your facial. So there's all kinds of stuff out there that's not as expensive as jail. And plus, if I had my way, I can say what I want to, but if I had my way, that 30-day sentence, if you get arrested with a child under 18 in your vehicle and you're driving impaired, it's a aggravated level 1. It's the most serious. It's like this much below a felony to drive in North Carolina with a child in your vehicle while you're impaired. And so it's automatic 30 days in jail. So if you wear a cam bracelet for 120 days, you just have to do 10 days in jail. But I'd rather see that parent wear a cam bracelet for 120 days and no jail, because you can be there taking care of your kids. And if it's not somebody, if it's their first offense, you don't want them to lose their job, break up the family. People get divorces over it, because mother was out driving around with the kids in the car drunk. I mean, all kinds of things happen. This is an option that works. They can still work. And some employers will tell you, like in sobriety courts, they have to have a job. They're not allowed not to work. So employers will say, well, yeah, I'll hire that guy. He's got a bracelet on his leg. He's got to be sober. I don't have to worry about him coming to work drunk. So there are employers willing to hire people. And if you were, who has employees? Does anybody of y'all have employees that work for you? If your employee got a DWI, and you'd be mad, right? And you'd be saying, maybe I'm just going to fire you. But if that employee comes to you the next morning and says, I put on a cam bracelet, I'm going to wear it 90 days, you don't have to worry about me being sober, because I've got a cam bracelet on here that I'm having to pay for, or somebody's having to pay for. I'm not going to violate it. You'd feel better about letting them keep their job, I hope. So it's an option. And like I said, the ones who can least afford it are the ones that usually need it, because they've burned all their bridges with their family. They've burned all their bridges everywhere. Sometimes they don't have a job and they can't pay for it. So when you put it on them and say, you're going to have to get a job now, that you're going to have all these lawyer bills and stuff, it's very successful. So
is this something an individual, have you seen it used, an individual that's already been through the course, lost his license, all that?
Yeah, see,
he's trying to get it back, going to the DMV hearings and something. Is that something the DMV can recommend for them?
what we're asking about is pre-trial, but what they do in sobriety courts, that's all post-adjudication. To get in the DWI treatment court, they have to plead guilty, and there are usually level 1s or aggravated level 1 sentence, and so they wear them. And then here's my trouble, and this is another thing I howl about. At the time they should be able to get their license back, if they come through sobriety court, we want them to have their license back. We just had a bill, you can read about it in the news. It was House Bill 212. And all it did was, if somebody completes sobriety court, goes all the way through, wears the cam 120 days, gets a job, goes to treatment, pays off any debts to the court they owe, they still can't get their license back. So if you'll look at House Bill 212, it was introduced by Representative Mike Clampett. It was a bill saying, when these people do all this and comply with everything, we want them to have their license back. Stop this with the keeping they're productive, they've got a job, let's let them go to work and take care of their families. Would you believe we couldn't get that bill through the committees down there in Raleigh? In this country, sometimes we reward all the bad behavior and we don't reward the good behavior. The people that graduate sobriety court, they're in there for almost 2 years. Veterans court, they're in there sometimes longer than that. And they comply with everything. They can't come out of the court if they owe 1 penny in child support or court fees. They've worn these bracelets for 120 days. They've been drug tested 3 or 4 times a week. They're made to work. They can't not work. They have to have a job. If they don't have a GED, they have to get one. They do all that, and then we don't give their license back. We make them, so then they get in that endless spiral of driving with your license revoked because we won't let them get their license back. So that's what that bill was about, House Bill 212. And if you can explain to me why we don't have legislators that want to reward good behavior, I don't know. Yeah,
That was my quick, yeah.
yeah.
Thank you, Ellen.
Yeah.
Have a great evening. Thank you. We
So
appreciate you
we
coming out.
may see you again. It just depends on what they tell us, and he can answer any questions you have about the bracelet itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Safe travels back to Haywood. All right, up next is Brad Guth. And
Thank you, Chairman
topic
Wexler.
is Biomass Energy Facility Moratorium Ordinance Extension.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and fellow commissioners. I'm here tonight to ask you to consider a 12-month extension on the biomass moratorium. As you all are aware, we had another moratorium in place, which was the Assembly Hall moratorium, and we've been working on that for the past 34 weeks or so. And we need some extra time to deal with biomass energy facilities. And so this, if you all would approve this would give us another 12 months to get all of the special requirements, similar to what we did with the special event facilities, where we had all the different special requirements that they have to now abide by. And we'll be able to get all those in place.
Do we have a plan?
So I've shared with,
Lessons learned from the past, milestones and gates going forward.
yes, sir. According to our plan, or the plan that I proposed, will be finished in November.
So you don't anticipate needing to take the whole 12 months? We're doing 12 months to be on the safe side.
Yes, sir. Because when we did the special event facilities, we did actually kind of have to come back for an extension at the end of that one. So we're giving us a little bit of a cushion, not a lot, but
Understood.
How long has this moratorium already been in place?
6 months.
6 months.
Yes, sir.
Chairman Wexler, based on the fact that it is an ongoing process that requires some complexity of research, and it's new to us, and the fact that we currently don't have a planning and zoning administrator to assist with those tasks, I move that we extend the moratorium for biomass for 1 year.
Well,
I think we need to have a public
comment
hearing first.
We've got to have public hearings, and then we can discuss it further. So at this point, I will open the floor up for our public comment portion of the meeting. First individual signed up, I believe, is Lang Hornthal. Is that correct? Come on up, Lang. Please use the podium. You got 3 minutes. The microphone at the podium is for people watching online. It doesn't do anything in the room, so speak up, please.
Okay, will do.
Thank
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. My name is Lang Hornthal, and I'm the co-executive director of Eco Foresters, a local professional forestry nonprofit. Our mission is the restoration and conservation of Appalachian forests through stewardship and education. I'm not here tonight in support of or in opposition to a biomass facility in Madison County. Rather, I'm here as a nonprofit leader who wishes to share information that can be used towards your deliberations. At the core of our mission is helping private landowners make good decisions and find ways to help them pay for forest stewardship on their land. Our work is in the forest, writing management plans, controlling invasive plants, and helping landowners navigate cost share and incentives for ecological restoration and stewardship. Daily, we are reminded that past use has dictated current conditions. And while the forests are beautiful to see across the landscape, just because they're green doesn't mean they're healthy. We value an educated landowner base that understands the need for active forest management. People value their forests for different reasons. However, all values are lifted up when forests are managed for health and resilience to future disturbance. This often means culling less desirable trees that grow quickly and outcompete keystone species like oak and hickory. Sometimes it means thinning or harvesting older white pines that were planted a generation ago to stabilize hillsides or reforest past agricultural lands. Both prescriptions require cutting less marketable trees that in the past were sold to local chip mills and help landowners pay for forest restoration. The number one reason that landowners choose not to actively prepare their forests for future challenges is money. Few landowners have a stewardship budget, and many rely on cost share or tax incentives to pay for their management. This is why EcoForesters currently has a 3-year project in Madison and surrounding counties, working with the North Carolina Forest Service and North Carolina Forest Extension Service to provide landowners with free resources like workshops, consultations that improve forest health and their ability to keep their forests forested. The more tools landowners have in their toolbox, the better equipped and prepared they will be to face looming threats like wildfire, flooding, development, and invasive pests. We consider private landowners the unsung heroes of our region. Their work towards maintaining healthy forests benefit entire communities by improving water quality, providing diverse wildlife habitats, timber for local sawmills, and the scenic beauty that we all enjoy on a daily basis. Any opportunity that supports landowners in the wise use and upkeep of their forests should be considered, including tax incentives for keeping intact forests on the landscape. Low-value wood markets at the proper scale help landowners pay for forest stewardship, and we ask you to keep these things in mind as you consider future forest product manufacturing in Madison County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I know there were a couple of folks from the U.S. Forest Service and Rough Grouse who I think missed the sign-up sheet, and that might want to speak
Thank
to.
you. Up next on the sign-up sheet is Jim Tibbetts. Yeah, we'll find out.
How are y'all doing tonight?
Well, Jim, how are you, sir?
All right. I'm really excited about this moratorium extension, and Clear Sky Madison and our resources would love to be part of the working group as it moves forward. And in line with that, I know there were concerns raised about the need for a biomass solution so that we could do good forest management. Like, you know, people that need to clear their waste wood from their properties, they don't have a solution. But what I've been researching is that there are systems like Charboss systems that are portable biomass production systems. And these are trailer-sized units that can be taken to a site that needs to be cleaned up, and you can use the slash in a clean, it's burned, but it's burned clean through filters, and it creates, what does it create, Jim? It creates, shoot, I didn't write it down. It's a char bio product, and it's a soil supplement. So it's basically a high carbon soil supplement. You can make money at it. And so we have solutions out there. There are a lot of universities that have been doing this. It's relatively new technology, but taking these trailers, small utility trailers, out to a site that needs to be cleaned up seems like a lot more effective way to do this than having all these trucks come to a central facility and having that size of these facilities being beyond what we want as a county. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that there are solutions out there that address concerns that we had as to why we need a biomass facility that are not the giant plants. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. So as is our typical practice on a public hearing, I will open the floor up. If there was anyone who was unable to sign up, would like to speak, you have 3 minutes. Please come to the podium, state your name. If there's anyone else that would like to speak, you can kind of maybe start a queue up here. It would be awesome. Thank you.
Good evening, County Commissioners. Jen Barnhart, District Ranger with the Appalachian Ranger District on the Pisgah National Forest with the U.S. Forest Service. Just as Lang, I'm here to provide you some information to consider in your discussions. The U.S. Forest Service is one of the largest land managers in Madison County as well as Western North Carolina, with a multi-use mission for the management of the Pisgah National Forest and further west in the Nantahala National Forest. Our mission is to sustain the health, diversity, and productivity of the nation's forests and grasslands to meet the needs of the present and future generations. So one of the ways we manage the national forest lands to meet the mission is through vegetative management practices such as timber harvesting and silviculture treatments. These are driven by land management objectives, usually restoration, such as oak or hickory, or also just to create wildlife habitat. Not driven so that the U.S. government can make money or to feed the demands of industry. If there is a public concern that we're going to start turning the Pisgah National Forest, for instance, into a fiber farm to support the biomass facility, if that came to fruition, that's simply not going to happen. Any wood chips from the National Forest lands that support the biomass facility, if one came to fruition, would be a byproduct of achieving a land management objective. The Canton paper mill had an appetite of 2.2 million tons of chips per year, and that came from Western North Carolina, Kentucky, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia, and we're losing infrastructure. So other places that are going away that used to have chip producers, Valwood in Clay County, Royal Blue in Kentucky, Kennards in South Carolina, Suncrest and D&M in Haywood County. So just to keep that in mind, these were coming from all over the place. So as you're thinking about your biomass facility, that's one of the questions we were curious is, what capacity was the person that came to the county looking to provide? So keep that in mind. That mill was being fed from all over the place. With regard to clear cutting on the Pisgah National Forest, silviculture tools used in the eastern part of the state do not necessarily transfer to the mountains of Western North Carolina. So for instance, silviculture systems are prescribed when deemed silviculture necessary. For example, we might clear cut like a white pine plantation to get a shortleaf site planted back into shortleaf pine, but we wouldn't do that to like over mature oaks, for instance, in the Southern Appalachians. And additionally, like in our forest plan, we're not allowed to clear cut except for under very, very specific circumstances. Then, so if you're thinking like, okay, what about non-forest system lands on private, based on what we've already lost with the Canton Mill and what the difference is with the proposed biomass in tons, depending on what they proposed, it could alleviate the thoughts of clear cutting to feed it, because there's actually something there to provide that component, the pulpwood piece. Also, some of the other things, yeah, I'm done. But yeah, either way, the east and the west are different. You can't operate like you can in the east with the mountains. And sawmill companies are trying to get rid of their wood waste too.
I've got to cut you off,
Yep,
Jen.
that's
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Well, sir. Come on up, introduce yourself, please. You got 3 minutes.
Yes, please. Thanks for having me. My name is Nick B. Miller. I am the Southern Appalachian Forest Conservation Director with the Rough Grouse Society and American Woodcock Society. So I manage our regional program here in the Southern Appalachians across 6 states, including all of Western North Carolina. Just wanted to kind of talk to you all today a little bit about the conservation need that we face day to day as a wildlife conservation and forestry nonprofit. I'm a professional forester by training, and I've been managing this program for the past 4 years. Ruffed grouse, as one single species, have declined in the Southern Appalachians 71% since 1989. That's a pretty dramatic reduction in the species population abundance in only a 3-decade period, and it's really concerning. And it's concerning not just because of the grouse, but because grouse are illustrative of a broader decline in forest wildlife diversity that we're seeing in the region. And we know that the primary driver of that decline for ruffed grouse and for a broad suite of forest wildlife species is a lack of forest habitat diversity. Most of our forests here in Western North Carolina were cut in the early 1900s, and they grew back even-aged, and they grew back during a century of wildfire suppression policies. So today's forests are really unnaturally single-aged and closed canopy from what we think of as kind of a healthy forest from a wildlife habitat perspective. And that's indicative in terms of many declines of species identified as species of greatest conservation need in North Carolina's State Wildlife Action Plan. So declining forest product markets in the region are a threat to our ability as foresters to maintain more diverse forest habitat conditions for wildlife. This is especially true in lieu of the Canton paper mill closing and the impact that that has on our ability to manage diverse forest conditions. And it's especially true for low-grade wood product markets for small diameter and poorly formed wood products. Robust low-grade markets are essential to achieve certain forest management goals, including managing for more open woodland and savanna conditions, and managing for species like oak, and also decreasing fuel loading and decreasing wildfire risk, and making communities more resilient and forests more resilient to wildfire events. So strong low-grade markets are also an incentive against unsustainable forestry practices such as high grading, which is when you only have a high grade market, when you only have a saw timber market, there's incentives in the market for people to cut the best trees and leave the rest, which is not good long-term financially for landowners, nor is it good for wildlife habitat and forest health objectives. So low-grade markets can also incentivize against conversion of forest land. When we have robust markets in place, landowners can manage their forests as working forests, generate revenue while also increasing forest health and wildlife habitat diversity. So thank you so much. Yep.
Thank you for your time. All right, last call. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this topic? All right, we still got a couple more. Come on up. Let's keep a line going, I guess. Go ahead, Ms. Ponder.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have one word for this subject. No.
Thank you, Ms. Ponder. Up next is, let's see, we've got another lady here. Go ahead.
My name is Maxine Dolphin, live on Spring Creek. I just would like to support your efforts to extend this moratorium. I'm thinking about the asphalt plant and how hard boards and citizens and you guys, many of you, worked to hear the people and do what they wanted. And because we didn't have time to get the zoning right, from my perspective, we got really sort of bullied out of a decision that was made by our boards and our adjustment boards and by the county commissioners. And so I think 12 months is a small price to pay to get this ordinance right so that we can have what we want, to protect our forests and to protect industry and to not make a mess of Madison County because we got bullied into it. So thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Dalton. Last call. Anybody else? Yes. All right. Seeing none, hearing none, we will move to close the, I need a motion to close the public hearing. Or the public comment portion, I guess, correct? Got a motion by Commissioner Briggs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? All right, so the public comment portion is closed. And now we move to the discussion phase of the public hearing. And gentlemen, the floor is yours.
So one question I've got is, of course, me and Bill and Alan, we inherited this. Why are we discussing this? Who come, or you don't have to say who come, but tell us what led up to all this.
Brad?
Sure. We had a request for information from a company that was interested in doing biomass in Madison County. And we didn't have any zoning regulations or anything in place for that type of facility. So in talking with our then planning director, we brought that up to the planning board and they started to address it, and we've had a number of public hearings on that topic. So that's why it's come up. And so we wanted to make sure that we had something in place so that we could guide the development in Madison County. So if we wanted to have biomass facilities, we could, and they'd be in the appropriate places. Or if we wanted to limit them to, say, the industrial district.
Okay. And when you say biomass facilities, are you talking about like biomass power plants, or are you talking about like a biomass wood pellet production?
It includes all of anything that is generating biomass energy. So yes, it would. We would cover this. This was not addressing that. I mean, the request for information was for a smaller type facility, but the ordinance itself will address a larger pellet mill or any of those type of things, as well as the small site-specific generators like Mr. Tippett spoke about.
And Commissioner Hensley, one of the things that caused the board at that time concern was biomass is so broadly defined that there are a whole host of things that could qualify could be biomass. And so we wanted to try to get the thought at that time was to educate ourselves based on what could be biomass, what would be acceptable biomass for Madison County, and try to determine what path we would like to go down in regards to any types of biomass and the various options that you have for things that qualify as biomass.
Very good point in that we had people speak tonight about the forestry, and that's just one aspect of biomass. It could be sludge from a municipal wastewater facility. That's biomass as well. And so there's lots of different biomass that we'd have to address.
Could be biodiesel fuel. I mean, there's
Right,
a lot
but what
of
I'm saying is there's a difference between a biomass power plant, right, that produces, that takes biomass energy or biomass products and makes energy out of it. Then they are a factory that makes wood pellets. I mean,
There is a difference in those,
different things.
and neither one of those things are in our ordinance.
But also we're addressing both of those.
Yes.
But the guy that come to you, what was he wanting to do? The pellets?
They were looking at one of the individual sites, facilities.
For a wood pellet production?
Not wood pellets. They were gonna burn the existing wood byproduct, thank you.
Like sawdust?
Like sawdust on site to generate electric.
So, but a sawmill that produces sawdust is not considered a biomass facility, though, right?
The facility is not. It's considered a sawmill in our ordinance.
The byproduct is considered.
That would be where you would run into having the biomass facility. Yes, sir.
how the byproduct is used.
Right. So if somebody wanted to come and start a sawmill, this is not going to affect them.
Unless they
Use the product.
And it should not,
Question, Chairman.
if we do this moratorium, it should not affect the folks that came up the forestry and the U.S. Forest Service and those guys. It should not affect what they do as far as coming out to somebody's property and evaluating their forest and working on their forest. Should it?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know that how it would necessarily.
Who is working on this now? What, have you assembled a team, or is it the planning board, or is it the board of it?
You're really looking at the person who's working on it.
Well, the plan, I think, going forward would be to involve the planning board.
Well, very much like the last time we did this, which hopefully would have participation from the county commissioners, and we'd have planning board members, and then planning staff. And then one of the changes that I had suggested is that we put each month, we put the product out on the website so we could see and the public could comment on the product as we work along, and then have a public hearing at the beginning where we can get everybody's opinion, and then another one at the end, they can comment on the product, and then we would have the public hearing just like we typically do at this meeting.
I guess I may be speaking out of hand. Jeremy's concerns, my concerns is that it won't affect our loggers and our local sawmills as of now, and put them out of work or anything.
Yeah.
They're already hurting enough with the paper mill shut down.
How many biomass facilities are they in North Carolina, and where's the closest one at? Do you know that?
Yeah, there are a couple in North Carolina. I'm not sure. There's a couple of them are down east, and I think there's one in Craven County, and I think there's one in northeast, eastern North Carolina as well. I'm not aware of any that are in western North Carolina, because of course when we first started on this effort, we did try to find other municipalities and other communities that had zoning regulations for biomass facilities. And a lot of it is very much what we had, where they're considered a power generating facility, and most places allow you to put a power generating facility in every zone that you have in your land use ordinance. And so that's what those were approved through, is saying that, you know, they're a power generating facility, and that's the way ours is worded as well. So if they came, we would have to group them as a power generating facility. And our RA district, for example, is our residential agriculture. It's the largest district in the county, and so one of these facilities would be able to go into that district.
One of them's a hog farm down in the eastern part of the state.
And obviously, if they're going to build a plant to generate electricity, they would have to sell it back to like French Broad Electric or Duke Energy. So have you met with any of those representatives to figure out anything on that?
No, sir.
Not yet would be the appropriate, right?
Not yet.
Any other questions or discussion, gentlemen?
And if it's solved before a year, then we don't, of course, don't have to wait.
Correct. Yeah. If we get it done before that, we can certainly lift the moratorium.
Any other questions? All right. Hearing none, that would be the appropriate time for a motion.
So moved.
All right, just to clarify, because it's been a while, are we, is the motion to enter into the moratorium, or to not enter into the moratorium?
Based on the aforementioned information, the motion is to extend the moratorium for 1 year.
So we have a motion on the floor by Vice Chairman Garrison. Is there a second?
Say,
Second by Commissioner Hensley. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? Moratorium is extended.
All right. And just to reiterate what Commissioner Wechtel said, you know, we will certainly welcome any participation from commissioners. I know Commissioner Garrison is probably going to sit this one out since he just went through 34 weeks of it, but anybody else, we certainly would welcome your participation.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you, Brad. All right, up next on the agenda this evening is Finance Officer Gary Ledford.
Good evening, gentlemen. So before you is for your approval is item A. I have two budget amendments listed. One is budget amendment 10B, and the other is budget amendment number 11. To begin, note that the budget amendment 10B is reflecting the motion that was made at your April 25th meeting to allocate funds from the LATCF to your Parks and Rec Department for ball field improvements. Now, amendment number 11, it records the increase in revenue to your Department of Social Services to offset the increase in expenses for the LEAP program. Also, find the increase to the salary lines for the Transportation Department for the creation of the approved part-time driver position. The increase also to your revenues from the Sheriff's Office due to the increase of the housing of the state inmates. And this increase will offset the expense of the two new vehicles to be purchased in this year. Your library has received additional donations in the amount of $2,062.80. And please see that we're a recording of the ARPA funds transfer into the general fund per the grant project ordinance. Also, you will see the additional revenue generated by the quarter-cent sales tax in the amount of $49,967.58 to be distributed to the Board of Education pending your approval.
Donnie, can we do both budget amendments at the same time, or they have to be separate?
I would do separate.
Okay. So first up would be budget amendment 10B. And that is the allocation, back up here, of the LATCF capital funds to the Parks and Rec Department. And this time I'd entertain a motion either to approve or deny that budget amendment.
I make a move, we approve it.
Motion by Commissioner Hensley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wyatt. Any discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor of the budget amendment? Next up is budget amendment 11, and I won't even attempt to summarize that because Madam Finance Officer did that well enough, and I don't think we do need to create any additional confusion there. So budget amendment number 11 is currently on the table. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Wyatt. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hensley. Any discussion?
Madam Director, I do have a couple of questions on it. Gentlemen, it'd be our page 155, the solid waste capital vehicle expenditure of $60,000. You know what that was for?
He is intending on, I believe, purchasing a flatbed truck. I believe that's what he mentioned.
Okay. And page 160, gentlemen. The capital outlay line item transfer for the sheriff's office, is that from lap salaries or SMCP additional funding or out of county inmate revenues?
That is the additional revenues from the inmates, and that's for the purchase of the 2 vehicles that I mentioned.
That's the juvenile, the change in the juvenile contract?
No, that was additional state inmates at that time.
Okay, I'm sorry. My bad.
We've not received the.
You
whole
said
lot.
that. I forgot. I'm sorry.
Bear with me just a minute. A couple more. Page 174. Oh, that's under financial reports. That's all I have for this section.
All right. Any additional discussion on budget amendment 11? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor of budget amendment 11?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Carrie.
See next, your item B, which is April's financial reports. We're at 83.3% into FY23. On the second page, you'll see that for our general funds, we've received 82% of our revenues, and our expenses are at 65.25%.
It's 15,000. What was 15,000 for Fred Anderson Toyota?
Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel.
That was our portion of
That was our
that
portion.
vehicle, soil and water block.
Not our Porsche.
Our portion.
And the
They're
71,000.
going to be rolling around in a Macan before the day's over.
Page 176, 71,000 performance automotives.
That is the vehicles for the sheriff's
Okay.
department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And then, Carrie, before you get away, we've got the needs-based grant application for the school system.
That's correct. It's the most recent request from the Board of Education for the drawdown on the needs-based grant program. It's kind of complicated if you look at it, but the request this time is the $234,700.39.
And that is on the stadium project.
That's
If I
correct.
remember correctly.
That is correct.
Based on the information provided by the school system. And so that's the grant money they've already been awarded. We're just drawing it down.
Back in September, they
Okay.
applied. Yes, sir.
So this is not an application for a new grant. This
Nope,
is
just a draw.
the
on-
existing grant.
That's
Okay.
correct.
So just for clarification purposes, this is to pull down money from the grant that has already been approved by the state for the stadium restoration project at the high school. So at this time, we need a motion to approve that drawdown application.
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chairman Garrison. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wyatt. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor?
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. You have that for me to sign, Madam Clerk? Thank you. All right, up next. Thank you, Kerry. Thanks for improvising on that at the last second there. It wasn't meant to be for you, but I appreciate you doing it. County Manager Rod Honeycutt, you are up next, sir.
First topic is county on surplus. There's 3 items for discussion. The first is a new bid in the amount of $850 on a $17,330 property of 2.33 acres.
I'll make a move, we reject that bid.
Second.
So we've got a motion by Commissioner Hensley, a second by Commissioner Wyatt, and we'll get to Bill in a second. So this, when you say this is a new bid, this isn't an upset bid. This will be an initial new bid to start the upset bid process if it is approved. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we've got a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any additional discussion?
2.3 acres in Bear River Lodge for $850.
Somebody can do better than that, I'm sure.
So
Motion was to.
So the motion is to reject.
Yes.
That's correct. We're still in discussion phase. Bill, any discussion? Okay.
No.
Bill thirded it, so I guess that's. All right, so no additional discussion. Hearing none, we're going to move to a vote. All in favor of rejecting the bid on the property? Okay.
Item second is a request from Print Pack to purchase a partial assist with their parking. I'm on a friend that Brad Goose to help assist him, but you have a diagram in the back that lays out exactly what property Print Pack is offering to purchase.
And while Brad's making his way up, this is something that's been in process for quite a while.
Yes, sir. We did actually considered it, and until Mandy told me we hadn't actually voted on it, I thought it was already done. But
All
I
right.
guess we talked about it in a closed session, and we just need to have a request that you all surplus this property and allow bids on it. And as you all know, you can accept bids just like you did a minute ago, or deny them. So you don't have to sell this piece of property.
So just for clarification for anyone who this may predate, this is some property up near the water tank that is owned by the county, the water tank up at Print Pack. Print Pack is desired to use it for some additional parking to aid during their times of shift change, and the property probably pretty much only has value to them, quite frankly.
Well, the town of Marshall does use the water tank.
Correct.
And we met with the town of Marshall's Public Works folks, and they were there when the surveyor was there doing all the lines, and so they're good with everything that we.
And that was to make sure that they had access to the water
Correct.
tank whenever they would need it and whatnot. Very good. Any additional questions before we consider it?
So this is not to sell it to Print Pack, it's just to make it a surplus to where people can.
Correct. We're declaring it surplus with the understanding that Print Pack is most interested in it. But we are declaring it surplus because that's the process we have to go through. We can't just sell it to.
Does the town of Marshall have a right of way through there to get to the water tank?
Those would all have to be addressed when you do the sale documents.
But I believe the intent is to make sure that they have whatever easement they need.
Yes, sir.
Right away.
And we've discussed that with.
Incorporates
That's been discussed with both. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So at this point in time, I would entertain a motion that we declare the property in question, parcel number 97167582007. If you're playing along at home.
And that's just 0.56 acres, right?
Correct.
0.56 acres.
Correct.
So it's a little over half an acre. So at this time, we entertain a motion to declare that parcel as surplus property and advertise it as for sale. I'll make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
So you got a motion by me. We've got a second by Vice Chairman Garrison. Any additional discussion about? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? All right, you got a piece of surplus property to sell.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brad.
Jim, the final item of surplus property is 2 parcels of land that was previously transferred, but the deed was not complete, and I'm gonna request the county attorney weigh in on this one and weigh ahead.
And there's some documentation I would ask that the board do would be to consider this in a closed session pursuant to 143-318-11A3 for me to give you your options on how to deal with this in closed session, since it involves attorney-client privilege.
You need a motion on that, Tony?
So we need to table it until we go into closed session?
I think what I would do is, yes, just table it and then.
When we go into closed session, we,
Do your 7B and then we can come back and make a motion and discuss these issues in closed session.
so at this time, I entertain a motion to table it based on recommendation of the county attorney.
Chairman Weckel, I so move.
Motion by Vice Chairman Garrison. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Hensley. Any additional discussion at this time? Hearing none, move to a vote to table. All in favor?
But Jim, transition to 7B, vacancies and reappointments. Tonight, 3 vacancies, the last 3 vacancies on the Public Safety Board. And these are recommendations from the town managers or the mayor of Hot Springs, Marshall, and Mars Hill. You see the 3 names listed there. That will round out the total of 9 members of that board. One, which being a 911 telecommunicator to be on the board along with the telecommunicator director. Gentlemen, subject to questions on those 3 names.
Anybody have any questions for the county manager at this time? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to fill these 3 spots. Do we need to do them individually, or can we do them as a slate line?
I would do them individually.
Okay. So Public Safety Board recommendation for the representative for Town of Hot Springs made by Mayor Norton was to add Dan Myers to be a representative on the Public Safety Board. And I'll make that in the form of a motion that I move to appoint Dan Myers to the Public Safety Board based on recommendation of Mayor Norton from Hot Springs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wyatt. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? Up next would be the Town of Marshall representative. The town manager recommended Police Chief Mike Boone. Anybody care to make that in the form of a motion?
I so move.
Motion by Commissioner Wyatt. Is there a second? I'll second. Any discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? All right, Mike Boone is appointed for Marshall. And the position for Public Safety Board for Town of Mars Hill representative recommended by the town manager is Fire Chief Nathan Waldrop from the Mars Hill Fire Department. Anyone care to make that in the form of a motion?
Move that we put Nathan Walter on that board.
Motion by Commissioner Hensley. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wyatt. Any additional discussion?
I do have some discussion.
Okay.
Donnie, on these appointments, Is there not appointment that comes from the fire commission, the fire association? How is that worded?
It is the fire president or his designee, whatever the title is, or his designee.
And can we alternate that designee as they recommended, or do we have to name them?
I don't know the answer to that.
We have 9 fire departments.
Hold on,
Ideally-
we've stumped Donnie. That's first in a while that we've stumped Donnie.
But I'll find you an answer.
Ideally, with 9 fire departments being represented by either the fire association president or their designee, it would be ideally that they rotate through that one a quarter, because you got 9 different fire departments that want to be equally represented at some point in the next 2 or 3 years.
And they all need to be represented.
So
The 9 were appointed voting members, not limit participation from any of the fire departments. So the 9 we're doing is just for the voting members to make sure we can move out on a path of direction and not have such a bar.
Have order.
Yes. It does not limit participation, and we welcome anyone.
you have 9 fire departments from 9 different communities. We want to make sure that the interests of all of them are represented at some point. So that may be a question you can get back to us on.
I can discuss that with Mr. Honeycutt, and we can put that on your next agenda, and I'll give you the statute. And
There's some complexities, not just having the fire association president or designee, but the complexities of different communities and different interests. It's imperative that Big Pine and Spring Creek and Ebbs Chapel all have an opportunity to physically sit at the table as that representative designee. That's all I have.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor of appointing Nathan Waldrop to the Public Safety Board? All right, you have your positions filled.
And just for the record, Nathan's not appointed as the Fire Association's designee, he's appointed by the town.
Appointed by the town of Mars Hill as
Just
their
a good place for me to
representative.
jump in.
Yeah. And full disclosure, Commissioner White is currently the president of the Firefighter Association, correct?
That is correct.
All right, that's any additional board appointments? I believe that's it, isn't correct, Colonel? Okay, so item 7C, Colonel, is the Veterans Memorial Park issue.
Right, and I'm gonna try to summarize it in that commission and get some help. The discussion is concerning a right of way associated with the Veterans Park.
Yeah, the veterans, VFW, is requesting, and I think that's ultimately what your presentation is to sign a contract drafted by our county attorney to utilize the property coming up Medical Park Drive between Hot Springs Health Program and Madison County Sheriff's Office, and to utilize that to develop and erect a veterans park on a 10-year lease. That's the maximum lease we can do, I believe. In the process of that, there's some of that land that's actually part of Hot Springs Health Program. Their board has met and graciously consented to provide that land to the county with the understanding the county is going to lease it to the VFW. But they also have an issue in the survey work as it was being completed, discovered that there's not an easement for Medical Park Drive for Hot Springs Health Program, and so they would respectfully request that the county provide them with that easement right away as part of this barter. And so I guess my position is that we grant that easement and that we also enter into the process of accepting that parcel of land and deeding it as part of that plat for the Veterans Park.
Then do we need to, we need,
You will provide to
do me is there a right of way, a survey for the right of way? If you'll just provide me those documents, I'll prepare drafts for you to review and approve.
And we can go ahead and approve the contract for the lease tonight, or do we need to wait on that?
The lease, has the lease been noticed in the newspaper for the 30 days? And the property that is described in that lease, do we hold title to that portion of it? Yes, Mr. Garrison, you can then approve and authorize execution of that lease tonight.
Then I'd like to move forward with that, Colonel.
Right.
So the lease has been advertised, there's been no, what's the proper term for
All
that?
we have to do is give notice of their intent
Okay.
to enter into that lease and give a 30-day notice and describe the property and what the consideration for the lease is done. And Mandy has prepared that notice and it's been published, so you can execute, you can authorize the lease tonight. You've met all of your legal requirements to take that action if you so decide.
All right. At this time, then, I would entertain a motion that we approve the lease under the terms set forth by our county attorney.
So move.
Motion by Commissioner Garrison. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wyatt. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor of granting a lease to the VFW for the construction of a Veterans Memorial Park, indicate signifying in favor of, or deny. All right. Started out, came out of the gate, and then stumbled, didn't I? Almost pulled it off. Almost like I know what I'm talking about.
Making a motion.
I
No
can
kidding.
acknowledge the one task I have from the June board to work with the solid waste director, to bring changes.
I'm sorry. Repeat.
Acknowledge the task for the June board to work with the solid waste director to bring recommendations back. Gentlemen, subject to your questions and all about tonight.
Thank you, Colonel.
Good deal. Believe at that point we are now done with the public portion of the meeting. So at this point, I will entertain a motion that we go into closed session, and that is going to be for let's see, we've got personnel, which would be under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6.
Mr. Chairman, I think that on the agenda, we do not have personnel on this agenda. We will just.
It's a continuation of the original personnel meeting, I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Okay.
But we'll do need to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege pursuant to A3.
Okay. Very good. So at this point, we need to go into closed session for attorney-client privilege under statute stated by Donnie, and that would be A3, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So 143-318.11A3 is the statute for all those keeping score at home. And all in favor? Well, we need a motion in order to do that, please. Anybody make a motion? Motion by Commissioner Wise, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? We are going to closed session, folks. Thank you. Entertain a motion that we come back out of closed session and go into open session.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner White. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? We're now back in open session. At this time, I would entertain a motion that we vote to approve the reissuance of the lost deeds of surplus property previously sold
To Mr. Langston.
to Mr. Langston.
I will prepare those and those to Chairman Weckel for his execution, and we will notify Mr. Langston that we have those for delivery, provided he will send to us the recording fees. We'll record the deeds and send them.
Okay. So I will make that in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Briggs. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor? Unanimous? This time, that concludes our necessary business for this portion of the meeting. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Commissioner White to adjourn our regular meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hensley. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Gentlemen, we stand adjourned. At this time,
Call
hold on. We need